Coach, first of all, you've had a chance to take a look at some tape of Northwestern and review last night's game. What stood out to you?
Northwestern's got a great team. Whenever you win at Michigan State, at Ohio State, at Indiana, at Wisconsin in the same year, you must be pretty good. You know, obviously I'm from the Midwest. I know how hard those things – it's hard to do one of those things. They're a veteran team, great defensive team. There's a time where I carried their coach to victory at the Ocean Course in the Bahamas with a wedge on 18. One of the best shot of my life. But Chris has done an unbelievable job. Obviously, Northwestern has its challenges due to being such an elite academic school. You know, it's not the easiest place to recruit to. So Chris has just done an unbelievable job. Happy for him. They've had a great year. So defensively, they're really, really well coached. They got really good guard play, as you guys know. So got our work cut out for us.
Questions, gentlemen to the left?
Ben Bulch, Los Angeles Times. A couple things. Coach, how much have you heard from your sister since yesterday?
Due to the fact that I said on national television I was being facetious, that she was going to be rooting for Northwestern, much like yourself. As an alum, so they had signs made for her. She's a principal at Summit Country Day High School in Cincinnati. So I guess it went viral on her. So she sent me some pictures today, you know, I guess some of her students posting signs in her office and stuff. So she would never root against me. So
Were the signs pro UCLA or pro Northwestern?
I think they all made her Northwestern signs, but she made sure she wore a UCLA shirt to school today.
And then the other thing is the defense. Obviously, you want Jalen Clark, but the numbers bear out that your defense really hasn't had.
It's actually gotten better.
Yeah, it went up to number one in Ken Pom. So how do you?
We're not better without Jalen Clark. I can tell you that. But I think, you know, look, guys, our guys, we try to train all year, as you know, covering us. At this, you know, we train for this time of year. You know, we don't try to have a good season and then this is the icing on the cake. You know, we try to train for this. So I think our intensity's gone up lately. That's helped. I think, you know, Amari being healthy and in game shape, you know, he's had a lot of, you know, he's had a month and a half now playing since he came back from the injury, has helped. And I think Jaime is definitely taking his defense, his deflections. He's trying to create more steals. You know, he and Amari are definitely trying to make up for some of Jalen Clark's, some of his absence with their activity on the defensive end. You know, that's just we understand, but it's going to be a lot. Look, guys, I mean, it's going to be a lot tougher tomorrow. A lot tougher. Boo Booey, you know, Chase Aldees. I mean, them guys. Those guys are veterans, and they're really good. I mean, they don't need a screen. They can get their own shot off the dribble. And they got great one-on-one ability.
You talked a little bit about Northwestern's defensive transformation, you know, a really good defensive team. How do you think the addition of Chris Lowry and, you know, his defense coaching against him, you know, way back at Kansas State and Southern Illinois, how do you think that's kind of helped them this season?
Is this his first year?
Yes.
See, I'm so, you know, I live in Hollywood now, so these things, you know, I did not know that. I just know they're really good this year. I'm not sure, you know, I don't know much about their season last year. So all I can do is speak to this year. And, you know, when Chris Lowry and I played against each other, Murray State, Southern Illinois, it was a bloodbath. So I can tell you that. You know, Chris is great. He had a great run as a head coach. He was there with Matt Painter. You know, I know he does a tremendous job. And he's all, you know, his defensive background is as good as there is.
And just following up on that, you know, Northwestern's kind of known for throwing a post double out there. How have you guys kind of prepped for that this last day, kind of seeing that, you know, they're going to be an opponent, you know, with a one-day, you know, flip to them, prepping for them?
Well, you better be ready for it. you know, because it's what they do. You know, I think that's, you know, mark of a lot of good teams, whether it's offense or defense. They're really good at what they do, and you know, they're like, if you watch them play, you know exactly what they're going to do, but that doesn't make it easy to attack them. You know, I don't care how much prep you have, because they're good at it, and they do it with great intensity, and they do it with great size. Their guards are big. You know, as you know, RDs, I'm going to assume 80 steals led the Big Ten. I don't know. I would think 80 steals in a season led the Big Ten. You know, so they recover extremely well out of their traps. So teams struggle to hurt them, to answer your question, and everybody knows it's coming, which tells you how good they are at it. That's a credit to their coaching. And look, they got a veteran team. You know, they got some veteran guys out there.
Tracy?
Talking about deflections with Jalen Clark, who's been winning that deflection bone recently?
Tough for me to say. Now, he's only been out 4 games now. Yep. So I don't have that in front of me. But I do know Jaime's gone up, and Amari's definitely have gone up. Those 2 guys in particular. Now, Dave's going to claim his, you know, it's a big argument after every game. TJ Wolf's in charge of deflections, and everybody runs in the locker room, starts to argue with TJ that they had more. They demand, they want him to go to the replay.
Have players tried to bribe TJ anyway?
Oh, I'm sure, but TJ's been with me long enough. I mean,
Your players talked about a different brand of basketball in the Big Ten, playing tougher, more physical. They said they were up for matching it, but what do you want to see from your players, or how tough is your team to be able to match up against a team like Northwestern? Well,
you better be ready. I mean, they're not going to get out of your way. You know, you got to be able to play. You got to be able to deal with physicality and contact. That's life in the Big Ten, always has been. So nobody's getting out of your way when you go to the basket, as you know. And it's really hard to have freedom of movement coming off screens. You know, they're just so well versed, and you have to be in that league because they all play that way. Not all of them, but 95% of the league, maybe 90%. You know, the league's getting so big now, it's hard. You know, I got to start reminding myself who's in the league now. But before we go in the league, but it's been that way for a long time. You know, I mean, that goes back to Steve Yoder and Bob Knight going at it. You know, it's just the way the Big Ten game is played. So I think at Northwestern's part of their success this year is, you know, they've been better at it, you know, at dealing with it and giving it out. That's why they've had so much success. Probably because their guys are, you know, they get a little bit older, a little bit tougher, play a little bit harder on the defensive end, and then you combine that with, you know, really good guard play. But schematically, they're coaching what they do defensively is, you know, I really like it. I like what they do because they know who they are, and they're never confused. Like, they know what they're going to take away. They know how they're going to take it away, regardless of who they're playing. Like, they post trap, you know, it's not every other game. It's just like, to the earlier question, I mean, they do what they do. The way they do the pick and roll, the way they defend screens, and they do it with great intensity. So we better be ready for it. I mean, it's not the first time we played a really good defensive team. But we told our guys it's like we're playing ourselves. Schematically, other than trapping the post, it's like we're, you know, which we do at times, but it's like we're playing against each other in practice. So you better be ready for it.
Jim
Alexander, Southern California News Group. Having the number of guys that you have that have the amount of tournament experience they have, obviously in a game you can tell how much of a factor it is. But in situations like this where you have one day to prepare against a team that you probably haven't played or haven't seen, how helpful is that experience for those guys to be able to lock in?
I mean, it doesn't hurt, but what helps more is that we play in the Pac-12 where you play Thursday, Saturday all year. So we've been playing Thursday, Saturday. They don't know our guys they don't know anything else. And, you know, so this is really normal, other than having to come here and do media. And then the fact that we don't have to travel in between games. Usually we play Thursday at, Utah and Saturday at Colorado. A little bit, try that one on for size.
Or the Washington trip.
Pick one, but you get to come to LA, it's like this. You don't have to travel when you come to the LA school. So, I think, look, experience always helps. If you can have talent and experience, you got a better chance. But I'll take talent. I'll take Amari Bailey getting 18 tomorrow if you can get it for me.
Coach, speaking of Amari Bailey, he started out, of course, he was a lot younger. He decommitted from DePaul, then he committed to UCLA. That coach leaves. You step in. Just want to know, how were you able to, gain his confidence and get him to come to UCLA?
Really, it wasn't hard at all. Amari Bailey's recruitment was one of the easiest things I've ever done. And I'm being serious. Like, he committed without a visit. He never, ever took an official visit. We started talking, and he committed, and I didn't even tell my staff that I was recruiting him myself. And one day he committed, and he told me, "Hey, coach, is it all right if I commit on my birthday?" Like, he committed to me, and we had to talk about things. His mom and I and him. And he goes, "I'm going to announce it on my birthday." It was like 2 weeks later. So I said, "Whatever you want to do, man." And I forgot. I'm in the middle of a season. So he announced his commitment, and I walked in that day. And the staff's looking at me like, and I was like, be nice if you guys would do something. Help out a little bit, But, I hope you guys can sign somebody. No, it's funny, but, it was really easy. He's a no-nonsense guy, and so am I. So, once we got to know each other, the rest was easy.
Ben?
Just wondering, are you going to handle the Adem situation kind of the same as in the first game, or?
I'll know more. We're getting ready to practice. I'm going to have him do some stuff today, and to give me a comfort level of where he's at. That some things that I hadn't asked him to do up until yesterday. So I'm getting ready to test him out. Probably more than I have.
Mick, I don't think we've ever talked about it. Dembona and Amari Bailey are both five-star recruits. How unique are they? How much of a unicorn are they that five-star recruits today in the recruiting world, that they come in, they have the kind of attitude, they play the kind of defense you want? How unique are they?
You would know this being your job versus mine, but I would say really unique. A lot of freshmen, they're not. They're delusional because of other people have told them that it's going to be easy and it's not their kid's fault. And then they get to college and they're playing against 22 and 3 and 4 year olds, and it's way harder than they thought. And they're just not. They can't play hard enough. They can't play. The game's too physical. The game's too fast. They're not tough enough yet. And it just takes some time. That's 98% of them. So I would say very rare. You get, Amari and Adem physically could compete and played hard enough to be able to play from day one. Now, there's some things they had to learn along the way, and you get to a comfort level, on the offensive end. But they were to be intense, tough, physical, mature enough to pay attention, and all those things to be able to start basically every game they've played. I think Amari maybe not one because he was coming off that injury, but it speaks to how hard it is. A lot of guys are just not. They're not. It's not their fault. They're just not ready yet.
Just curious if you've seen the graphic of Lou Alcindor, Bill Walton, and Ken Nwuba that's been going around.
I think it's awesome. I mean, Mac was 4 for 4 at Kenny. Why isn't he on there? I mean, I get it. Kenneth had 10 at half, though, right? Just really happy for both those guys. I think what goes on, you don't see on the outside. People watch a team play and they don't see how hard the other guys are working. Abramo Zonka, Kenneth, Dylan, Will. And if you know me, I'm a big believer in development. I don't know who's here from Northwestern, but I would tell you, Nicholson's a great example. If there's any Northwestern writers, and he didn't play. He goes from not playing to a starting center on an NCAA tournament team from his freshman year to his junior year. So it just shows you you got to, but you don't want those guys to get discouraged. So when those guys get a chance to play and play well, you're just really happy for them, because I know what they go through. Because somebody told them how many stars they had. We keep talking about that. I'm going to ask him if anybody's a general. But, you know how hard it is for them. You go from a star to, struggling to get in the game. So it's a tough transition for a young player, especially if Tracy Pearson at 247 Sports puts too many stars on him.
John Kristen, Daily Bruin. Coach, you've already obviously played 2 Big Ten teams this year in Maryland and Illinois. How much do you look at, common opponent game tape like that to get ready for a team you're not familiar with like this on a short turnaround?
A lot. But, I'm more interested in their last 10 games. And again, if they played somebody that runs a similar offense or defense as we do, so strategically you can see how they defend it, how they defended an offense similar to ours, or how they attacked a defense similar to ours. Things that might, anything you can pick up. Obviously, Rod Palmer's been scouting them since Sunday at 3:30, whenever it went up on the board in L.A. So I'm catching up.
Annie Costable from the Chicago Sun-Times. Chris talked about
My wedge.
He did. It came up. He talked about catching a couple of your guys' games this year. How many of Northwestern's games have you watched this season? Did you catch any of them?
Yeah, they had a couple big wins. Actually, I caught both their Indiana games, and I'm pretty sure one was we were off for whatever reason. So I was sitting in my backyard watching them on a weekend when they played Indiana. So I remember. Those are big wins. So I know Indiana came back on them. That was a wild finish. But I know it was pretty evident they were going to make the tournament at some point. I didn't want to be the jinx, but I texted Brian James and said, you're going to get your bonus this year, big boy. Maybe you can buy dinner when I see you on the road. So, I was impressed. It wasn't like I was, watching. I watch a lot that's all I do during the season. So I'm either watching film or then I'll watch other games. So those games were impressive because obviously Indiana's, I think they're 4 seed. They're really good. And there were 2 very different games. One was crazy high scoring in Bloomington. And then the other one, they got way up, and there was a couple technical fouls early. It was wild, right? And then Indiana came back, but I think Boo Booey hit a big shot to win it, right? So anyway, I've seen them, and it stood out to me when I saw them how much better defensively they seemed to be than when I had seen them before. Maybe that's I don't Chris Lowry effect, but I think when Chris Collins played at Duke, back then they when he played they were a much more defensive oriented team. Now he's old. How old is Chris? See, yeah, he's getting as old as me. But no, back in those days, they were a man, tough defensive team, draw charges, really try to deny you back. So I'm sure he's gotten back to some of that in his from his Duke stuff. You can see it in the way they're playing now.
Tony?
Thanks, Mr. Kelly. Coach, you were here a few years ago, with Cincinnati. Now, moved on, further west from Cincinnati to UCLA, and you coached at Murray State. You are at Cincinnati. native, and you've been around basketball a lot too, just as much as Chris Collins, but on a different level.
Yeah.
I did note. I would have to note that moment that you had with your player when you were talking about Oscar Big Old Robertson yesterday. But you yourself, being in that general area, you said you played at Murray State, Kentucky school, and now you're further west as a coach. What is that feeling like, coming generally out of that geographical area, coming to the west coast of California, specifically Los Angeles, Hollywood area?
You ever see that one of Tupac's videos? He's got the top down. He's driving through the flats of Beverly Hills doing this. That's how I feel every day, man. California love. It feels great. Although we've had more rain, Rod Palmer told me we've had more rain this year than we've had in 50 years. It's been the worst winter in 50 years, and it's exponentially better than winter in Cincinnati. So, no, it's been great. Got a lot of friends where I'm at. I've always loved Southern California. So, fertile recruiting ground, the best tradition in college basketball. And it's been refreshing for my career. This stuff can be a grind. 13 years at my alma mater was a great run for me. It was an honor of my lifetime to be able to coach the school I rooted for growing up. But getting a chance to be the coach at UCLA, sitting Coach Wood in the seat's been awesome. I cherish it. It's been a great, great, great time. And that's, having to deal with COVID. COVID, it was lockdown, as everybody knows, in California, but it's still been awesome. So couldn't even go to the beach, man. Crazy.
I hear.
Bradley Locker, Inside NU. Coach, as you're likely aware, Northwestern does not really have an extensive history in this tournament, has only made it twice and just picked up its second ever win yesterday. Do you feel like that might be an X factor with you guys having so much experience in Northwestern trying to get its feet under it in these type of situations?
Maybe. I mean, I'll take any advantage you want to give me, but I don't know. I mean, they played, their league was such a bloodbath this year. They've been in so many close games. They got some grizzled veterans on this team. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Like I said, if it's talent or experience, give me talent. Boo Booey's got a lot of talent. So I'm not going to worry about his inexperience. I'm worried about his talent. So, but maybe, you never know how things shake out in those type of situations. If I was a Northwestern fan, I wouldn't be worried about their inexperience. In the tournament, meaning.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Coach.